Well, we hope you're sitting comfortably and enjoying your breakfast this morning. No need to panic. Don't panic at all. There is no need to adjust your screens because you know what? We're taking you back in time.
50 years back in time, in fact, when colour first came to Australian TV screens.
Just like that.
It was March 1st, 1975, when our lives became just that little bit more vibrant.
Now, the ABC was the first to broadcast in colour, but only for 30 seconds, all thanks to a cheeky bit of broadcasting magic from a comedy program.
This was the moment when TV in Australia changed forever.
Look! Hey, Jack! The colour! It's leaking through the window! Pooh, a filthy thing all over my new carpet!
Murphy and I wrote this sketch which was about colour television, and the premise was that Auntie Jack hated colour. She refused to turn to colour.
I'll try and hold it down!
Something of a maverick in the 70s, Graham Bond was surprised when asked to bring Auntie into colour.
The ABC wants you to introduce colour television. I went, you're kidding, they hate my guts.
True to form, Auntie Jack had a trick up her sleeve.
Well, we didn't do it on March the 1st. See, we did it on the 28th of February at 11:59 and 30 seconds. We beat Channel 9, Channel 10, Channel 7.
The changeover felt decidedly 70s on the commercial networks. After a testing phase, Australia was excited to finally see its favourite shows in colour.
We definitely had FOMO, as the rest of the world had caught on a lot quicker than us. If you went to the TV guide, you had to check if it had the C next to the program, and if it didn't, it meant it was still in black and white. So we were still catching up.
Australia had to build up the colour TV industry on and off screen to meet demand.
Australian audiences were waiting so long for colour TV that they lapped it up really quickly, so sales went through the roofs.
Today, more than 1/3 of Melbourne's TV homes, 36% to the end of last month, have colour TV.
Audiences watched their first colour ABC News bulletin in 1975 and have been doing so ever since. But it was Auntie's auntie that started it all.
Jack! You've gone coloured! Why not, Arthur? It was only a big joke.
James Viver, ABC News.
We have certainly come a long way since then, though I do think that we look better in black and white.
I would say so. My teeth certainly were a lot whiter.
But now we want to talk about what the next 50 years of TV might look like.
That's right. Now, Amanda Lotz is a media scholar with Queensland University of Queensland's Digital Media Research Centre. She joins us now from Brisbane. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Amanda.
I'm happy to be here.
Now, as Richard said, we have come a long way since colour TV. How have our viewing habits changed?
They've changed quite a bit just in the last few years, to be honest. These days, we're watching a lot less television on television. So the annual data that the government collects found for 2024, for the first time, when asked, have you watched free-to-air broadcasting in the last 7 days? For the first time, less than half of Australians said yes to that. But we're watching in a lot of other ways and in a lot of other screens and in different places.
Yeah, so TV or watching TV used to be a real family affair, didn't it? I remember gathering in the evening around the TV with Mum and Dad and my sister and watching Little House on the Prairie. I know that dates me, but I remember watching Laura Ingalls. But that's no longer the case now, is it?
Well, you would think that, but actually what does happen is that because we enjoy sharing stories, we still are living in family units or in houses with other people. Viewing has always been social, and it still is. It's just that we might not all, let's say, down the neighborhood, all be watching Little House on the Prairie. But instead, we're using the technologies to find the things that suit mom and dad watching together, or the whole family, or mom and a daughter. And so there is still quite a bit of co-viewing happening.
Something I have noticed too, particularly during the COVID years, streaming allowed for binging, and we were all binging everything from The Office right through to Friends, and but now I see a lot of the streaming services are sort of reining that back in now, and now it's a drip feed, so you actually have to wait for, I don't know, like Severance once a week. Why is that?
It depends a little bit on the service, especially with the ones coming from the US. Some of them are connected to linear broadcasters like HBO, so the things that come over on binge often are that way. They're businesses, and they're trying to figure out how to stay in the cultural conversation longer, and playing with trying to get people to watch it over time. They're hoping that that's a way to keep people talking about it for weeks or maybe a month, as opposed to sort of that quick hit when many people binge all at once.
Do you remember the times when the whole world would be watching TV, and it's usually free to air at a particular time? So I'm thinking like Live Aid. I'm thinking the time, and I know this is going to date me again, Dallas, Who Shot JR, or maybe even, the final episode of Friends. We all, as the world, watched it. That's no longer the case now, and is that? I mean, have we lost that global community when it comes to watching TV?
I think we may just always be on the verge of waiting for the right thing. For example, I think many said that could never happen in Australia again. And then 2 years ago, we had extraordinary numbers of Australians coming together to watch the Matildas play in the World Cup matches. And so I think the issue, we clearly have the technology to do it. And so I think it's really a matter of the world being simultaneously interested and sort of coming into a singular feed. Now we have so many different feeds, often of the same thing, that we might all be watching, but not necessarily exactly the same version.
Okay, so, look into your crystal ball for us. 5-10 years down the line, what is our viewing habits going to be like?
I think that the general day-to-day viewing even fractures more. We've been doing some surveys and some interviews with Australians, and the age group that's 25 to 35 is super interesting, and I think they have a lot to tell us, because they're the ones who have had social media and YouTube really since they became adults. And what was interesting in those findings was to see that sort of something happens in late adulthood. And so on one hand, they kind of stop using social media the way that we associate with teens. But on the other hand, they're turning to YouTube, which is a giant thing with a lot of different aspects. But they're turning to YouTube more than they're turning to television for that kind of uncommitted viewing. That sort of like, well, let's see what's on. They're looking to social media and YouTube instead of sort of flipping on a channel, which isn't to say that they don't still watch television, but they're definitely doing so in different ways. And so I think they're going to predict a lot about what's coming through as other generations age into those brackets as well.